Hello everybody, this is K-Man, and I'm back with my War offense teams. I just did a kind of recap of the defense teams that I helped build on this live stream the other day. I wanted to go over the offense teams. I don't have any fancy music this time because I'm not even looking at at Tacticus Tracker. I'm actually looking at a screenshot from Tacticus Tracker because Tacticus Tracker, when you go into the app on mobile, sometimes it doesn't really work that well. So here are 5 of my 10 teams that I put together for offense, and then here is the remaining 5. So I like to pick out my teams ahead of time. Some people, some people just wing it, and some people cater their teams to every single specific fight they go into. But I like to, think about this ahead of time. I plan out, here are my 10 offensive teams that I'm going to use with each token, and then I find a matchup that I think works best for that. So these all have their strengths and weaknesses. But yeah, we'll go through. And I have a good amount of legendary characters. We've been playing at Battlefield 4. We're actually playing at Battlefield 5 this time, so we're definitely going to need those legendaries. But I go all the way down to rare because I did just get all these guys. Actually, they're still at rare. I almost have all of them at gold. But yeah, and then I kind of make this. I actually increased all these to mythic just to see, like, hey, what's the potential if I run up against a mythic team? Unfortunately, it's still looking like, I don't know, if I end up facing a full Adamantine 2 team, I don't know how well these will do. But some of them, they hit really hard. Like the Rapid Assault one, Carrion's going to be A2. That'll really help. But these guys are great. So let me go through them and why I think maybe these top 2 will actually do pretty well against an A2 team. So Rapid Assault, I use all the time. I love it. It works with so many different characters, but the core is Ragnar. Ragnar and Dante are just like incredible buffers. But really, the Ragnar turn is the turn that you're going to kill everything. And I used to use this with Nicodemus along with his active too, but it actually didn't add too much. It adds some Pierce, which is really nice. But now that I have Celestine, who's recently at D3, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a killer team. So Dante has an incredible buff for all flying and rapid assault characters. Ragnar has an incredible buff that was literally the whole basis of like a guild raid team at one point for melee characters, and everyone is full melee and everyone is also rapid assault or flying. So they all get buffed by both of these buffs. And the way you do it, you start out the turn howling with Ragnar, and then you want to move Dante in first so that he's in the middle of everyone. So sometimes you want to pick a target somewhere in the middle. It might not be the most ideal pick for Dante, but somewhere where you think about where all the rest of your positioning is going to be, and everyone should make sure they should be within 2 hexes when they attack. Carrion can, take out 2 people at once. I think Ragnar's attack is basically like an instant kill because he has so many hits buffed heavily by his own active ability that it's just like whatever he attacks is pretty much a kill. Oh, let me turn on this. Then we got Dante, who has high pierce damage, so that's great for like a high armor enemy. And then Celestine is awesome in this team because she can eat Overwatch. There's actually a couple people who can eat Overwatch in this, but Celestine can run in, get shot even twice, and take out 2 of her Gemini, and then she still gets to attack. So that's awesome. And also, if she does get hit, or if she becomes a target because she's probably the frailest one of this bunch, then they'll just spawn a Gemini. So you won't actually lose any points. They'll just kill the summons. Same thing with Matineo. Matineo goes in. He has a plasma attack, which is also really high pierce. And then he spawns 2 jump pack intercessors. No, not intercessors. He spawns 2 jump pack boys, Blood Angel boys. I forgot what they're called. And when he hits, he only has 1 hit, so he doesn't get buffed as much. All of these buffs are based on hits. But yeah, he works really well here. He has such high range too, so it's amazing. Like him and Dante both have range 5 when they start, which is crazy. And then Carrion is like almost like cleanup crew. Like he can hit. Sometimes I send him in first to hit multiple people and then see where we're at afterwards, because his active ability, his abilities don't get buffed by these. Well, actually, they do get buffed by Dante. They don't get buffed by Ragnar's attack. Active. But yeah, this is like a killing machine. And then what's nice that I have Celestine in here now is I'll have 2 instances of summons, so hopefully they won't target you. The weak spot about this team is if you don't wipe everyone in 1 round, if you leave anybody alive, they are probably not in a good position, and aside from carrying, they all fall pretty easily. So also Biovore's here to help. I kind of just threw Biovore in because of the summons thing. Maybe I'll switch this around, but Biovore initially I was just trying to get summons on the field to distract. So if I left somebody alive, they'd go after the Spore and not, like a Ragnar or something. Anyway, moving on, we got Torques, actually. So I really love this. This is amazing if you get like a full melee team that you can predict their movement really easily if they all come running at you. Revos goes first, and she will pick a high ground spot or whatever is the most ideal, hopefully high ground, and then try to get just in range of everyone that's going to come chasing after you. And then you can pair that with Eldrion's buff, who's incredible. And I have it at level 50, so it's super powerful. So Eldrion paired with Revos. Hopefully Eldrion can be placed in a way where that spot that Revos is going to shoot the enemies is range 2 from Eldrion. Or sometimes I'll place it in a way where, like, okay, if you have high ground for one hex but not the other, maybe I'll cover the other hex with Eldrion, just because usually Revos can take these enemies out on their own. But, sometimes with the full Medicaid buffs, it's really hard to take down an enemy, even with Revos' incredible active ability. And then Shoso can kind of help too. If Shoso can get in range of an enemy and add a marker light, sometimes you put him in a vulnerable position, but at least then that enemy that could attack Shoso will hopefully be in range of Revos and then get killed easily, because the marker light with Shoso's active ability adds a damage boost to Revos' attack. So it's all about boosting Revos and just taking out as many enemies as you can when they charge at you. But then they're probably not going to kill them all, or maybe one straggles behind. Maybe they got a Terminator, something like that. So then you got your round 2 reinforcements kind of to take the charge afterwards, quite literally. So Golgorth then charges, probably kills off whoever's remaining, and then Snotflog is incredible because he has so many hits. So Revos does too, but he's got a bunch of hits. So then Snotflog can come in, spawn a Grot too, just in case, God forbid, you don't kill this enemy on the second turn. Then he's got a Grot on the field. Also, if Snotflog hits an enemy, spawns a Grot, and there's an open hex, you can use Ruckatruck, the Machine of War, to spawn a Squig next to them too, so another distraction. And then paired with Eldrion, all these people do really well. Shoso will just kind of go around and snipe as well, and he hits really hard too. So I think this could take out a mythic, maybe A1.5 team, something like that. This is really good. So Deathball is a fun one. It's a really strong team. I did a video about this. Deathball's awesome. Mine, I don't have a ranged chaos unit really to pair with this. Even range 2, even like an Archimatos could work, or a Toth. I just don't have anybody besides from Typhus that's like a range 3, a ranged chaos damage dealer. So I use Karn in here because I got my Karn pretty high level. And basically what I do, this is an endurance one. This is, attrition type battle. So, you place Rapon in the middle, you put Malleus up front, maybe Typhus up front. Corrodius can go up front. He's not as tanky, but he's got a ton of health. And then keep Karn protected. Because I've made this mistake so many times where you're like, ooh, this is a great positioning. I can run Karn in and kill everybody, but if you leave Karn alone, because of all the buffs that the attackers have on Guild War, it's a good chance that Karn's going to get taken out. And because he's the weakest of the two, they'll probably target him, or of this bunch, they'll probably target him. So what I do is I kind of have like a front line of Terminators and Rotbone. And then when I want to attack, I'll move Karn in, take out the people in their front line, and then push past Karn. So like, I'll make sure there's a space to move Rapon in, then he takes out an enemy. Then you move Malleus up to the very front, and then Typhus can finish him off or something like that. So you kind of keep moving the front line and keep Karn protected. Unfortunately, sometimes Karn's in the back, and he just killed an enemy, and he's got no one else to hit but you. But he usually can't kill one of your, like a Rapon in one strike, which is really nice. But yeah, you do gotta watch out for that. And then Corrodius is like the MVP here, because actually if you have a choke point, for example, where you can just put Rapon and Malleus and they can just take damage, tank hits, round after round after round. If you can get to round 5, Corodius's aura is range 3, and that means he can spawn like 20 Poxwalkers at once, like depending on the map. I've literally seen like 20 Poxwalkers pop up on the field, which is like game over. Like you just win. You just hang back and win the game. Sometimes you get in a pinch and you're just like, oof, I don't know. I'm in a vulnerable position. I just need to spawn right now. And he only has range 1 and maybe spawns 1 or 2 Poxwalkers. But still, that can help. This team has no summons, so Corodius can help with that. And then the Plague Burst pairs really well with that. It decreases the armor for everybody. And then most importantly, I like to use it just to finish off enemies. So a lot of times people put in resilient enemies and you just barely can't kill them. They have 1 health left. So then use the Plague Burst Crawler on them in conjunction with the Death Guard aura that they have. And then you can kill off an enemy pretty easily. All right. Then we got mechs. Ad mech all have so many synergies. I've talked about this in my live stream and stuff. I'm going to make a video on this, but yeah, AdMech is incredible. Mainly, I mean, this is a guild raid strategy essentially, but it's a little bit different than guild raids because you're not hitting one character. You want to hit groups of characters. So like you want to try to position Ro in a way. So Ro runs in first. I hope he can negate Overwatch to these infiltrate too, if that's ever an issue. And then use the active ability from Ro. Maybe kill something, hopefully. Then you would move like someone like Tangita in, and Actus in, and then use Tan's normal attack, spawn a Skitari, and now you've got, hopefully you can get in a position where you've got like a Skitari, Tan, maybe you can even fit Vitruvius somewhere. It all depends on the map, but you can hopefully get in a position where Actus is in the middle of everybody, and then all of a sudden uses Actus's actives on round 2, and everyone gets activated again. Tan spawns another Skitari, the Skitari shoots, Ro shoots, Tan shoots, Vitruvius shoots, hopefully. Everyone's doing multiple attacks. And then if you can time it right, maybe Tan, I don't know how the AI works, but Tan sometimes goes first, and then Ro attacks that unit, and then Ro attacks by itself, and then Ro hits that person. And then maybe you can come in with Aleph Null or Vitruvius and finish him off. And then I use Aleph Null here. A lot of times, like I said, the maps are really cluttered in Guild Wars, so it's hard to get perfect positioning. You can't, like, to do all of these people in range that Ro can, go from enemy to enemy to enemy that are all adjacent to each other. It never really works out that way. So a lot of times, Aleph Null is just there to heal and use the scarabs. He does have a lot of synergy with this, or she does, whatever it does. But yeah, this has, beside from the Skitari, no other summons. So yeah, sometimes I'll just like put Aleph on the target just to like distract, essentially. And then if you make it to round 3, you can deploy to Galatian. It's a nice distraction. It's good. It's kind of like an insurance policy. I feel like I never really used Galatian with this team unless I'm like doing really badly. I'm like, oh god, they've taken out my Ro, they've taken out my Tangita, and now I'm left with this like B team that like doesn't really hit that hard, and like I don't know. And then all of a sudden I pop the Galatian in, who's level 40. I could get him up to 50 for this team, but he's just tanky and like soaks up damage, and you can hopefully give your team 1 or 2 more turns where they can finish the battle. All right. Oh yeah, and Vitruvius also has a great passive ability. So if you can use Vitruvius passive, sometimes there's really tough enemies where it's like even with Ro's direct damage, you still can't pierce through. You still can't finish this enemy off because the enemies have so much health when they got double Medicaid buffs. So I'll usually run in with Vitruvius first if there's a tough enemy, mark the enemy, get a hit on them. Run in with Ro first, then use Vitruvius, then use Ro again. Basically just to add an extra hit to all of the attacks that you do to that enemy. Then we got Cuddle Puddle. So the Isabella Cuddle Puddle is awesome. She can heal everybody. It's not the best in Guild War though. It's an incredible strategy for so many modes, but with Guild War they're just not they're not strong enough, essentially, because you're usually dealing with like, say you're doing Onslaught with Tyranids or LREs, where even if you're facing people at like the same strength as you, they're summons or they're like weaker characters. You're not dealing with like a D3 Karn that's coming at you full strength and with buffs, like, which, you can have as much healing as you want. Karn's going to kill you. So you have to pick and choose this one really carefully, and then map can be very specific because you want to make sure that it's a map where you can turtle well, where Isabella's not going to be vulnerable. And And then it's, yeah, like I said, it's hard to find. A lot of times I just use this as like a finishing. If I mess up with one of these top 4, then I'll bring in this Cuddle Puddle and just finish it off. But anyway, I use this, and I think I might have swapped Asoth back in here. I forget. Sometimes I put in other custodies for the repeating. Oh, you know what I do? I think I do Nicodemus in Rapid Assault, and then I'll put Carrion here, because Carrion's also really tough. But anyway, you can use whoever you want. It's nice that they're all Imperial, so if anybody dies, I can revive them, because that's really helpful to get the full 1,600 points. I put Exorcist in just because, maybe it can help boost Isabella's Active Faith. And after a couple kills, that can get close to 100%. And if you have a good crit item on, Isabella can be really deadly with her Active Faith. Lucian has Resilient, which is great, but I kind of use him as like my range damage dealer here. You're always in a position where there's a choke point and then you can't get everyone in, so Lucian can help finish off enemies, maybe get high ground and shoot down at somebody. And then Bellator helps distract. So Bellator, usually turn 2 or 3, I'll try to summon with Bellator, get some Bella babies out there just to distract the enemy, and then I can focus one at a time, because this is another like attrition strategy. You're gonna go to, I've seen this go to like turn 12 sometimes. So yeah, you're focusing down one enemy on every time. The strategy is also with Trajan is to get Trajan next to him, use an active ability from someone. You can even use an active ability from Lucian and then heal up Lucian after he's attacked. But yeah, with Trajan next to him, everybody gets extra hits. With their abilities, everybody does extra damage. So it does work really well. And then Titus is just great. I think I might have, Titus and Lucian, maybe I'd swap out if I had an opportunity, but these are who I have at D3. And they all work pretty well together. Titus hits pretty hard too, especially when he's buffed by Trajan. So yeah, I got that. And then let's see, I got 5 more teams here. So this was like my best team at one point, but I've quickly bumped up to Legendary, and all these guys are still gold, unfortunately. But that's great. When I go up against epic lineups, this is almost always a kill, like a win, and almost always a 1,600. So I use the Abraxas, Yazagor, and Archimato Slingshot that I did a video on. That was one of my first videos. And I actually mentioned in here that I also use Makotep in this. He does a bunch of things, but the other core piece of this is Sybil. So Sybil has a passive ability that gives everybody adjacent that started the turn adjacent infiltrate. So this works really well on enemies with Overwatch. It works really well on enemies with lots of armor, because all of these attacks are psychic, or most of them are. And then you can spawn with the Slingshot. If the map works out, you can get 6 summons from Abraxas. Then you can Slingshot Abraxas across the field with the Yazagor, activate it maybe with Sybil or something like that, get another 6, and then actually you can have a choice of either using Archimanos to spawn more Screamers with his normal attack, or use Archimanos as active and get a bunch of demons out there, a bunch of bloodletters out there, which is pretty dope. And then Sybil's active abilities also hits really hard. Like, it's kind of a roll of the dice, but sometimes it can fully wipe out like a really, really tough enemy with like nothing. So Makotep, because positioning is so important on this, Makotep gives everyone adjacent +1 movement. So you kind of want to start off the match turtling around Makotep and Sybil, depending on who wants Overwatch and who wants movement. I'll usually put like Yazagor all the way up front, actually, Abraxas in the back, because oftentimes you don't need 4 movement to get Abraxas where you want him to start, but sometimes you need 5 or even 6 movement, because after a couple enemies with Yazagor's ability, he gets an extra movement. Sometimes he has 6 movement to fly across the field and get like a perfect spot for another summoning circle. But before I do that, actually, a lot of times I'll use Makotep's ability after I've done the summons with Abraxas to activate the pink horror again, and then hopefully a pink horror and a screamer. And they both go and do their thing, and the pink horror will attack an enemy, hopefully with splash damage, to get 2 more stacks of psychic damage going. So then that's 2 more screamers for Abraxas, and it can get, as you can see, it can get out of control pretty crazy. Plus, oh wow, not even done. With Zakar, you can use Zakar's ability, and Zakar can attack with a psychic. Or I forget actually. I'm not a Neurothor player, so I forget if he if you don't have Book of Fate, I don't know if Zakar attacks. But anyway, Zakar does damage to everybody that's taken psychic damage. So he can help finish off enemies. He can deploy to the field and distract the enemy. And I think he also attacks with psychic damage, which can give you another stack as well. So lots of psychic damage here. It's a very powerful combo. Better on offense than defense, though. I don't know. Some people love using psychic on defense. I don't. I think it's kind of weak, but anyway, that's my thoughts. And so the last couple, I have snipers here. This is really great for when there's like a choke point on a map, or if you have really slow enemies. Fortunately, a lot of times they're Terminators, and they're really hard to take out with, got someone like Certus. I've been trying to swap out Certus in this combo for a while. I just haven't brought anybody else up yet. But the core of this is basically corralling the enemy so that you can shoot them from range and stay safe with your range 3 characters. And Forge Fiend is like critical for this. And then I have sometimes there's other people that shoot you. Sometimes they break through, God forbid. And then actually sometimes Incises can revive them, or maybe the enemy has Machine of War abilities that start to grind you down. So Incises can also heal you up there. So Incises kind of helps with that. You could probably swap out with another healer though. Maybe I'll swap with a different. I don't know really who else Well, I guess I'm not using Nicodemus. I could do that. Anyway, but the core of this comes down to Thaddeus. Kind of. It's not ideal. Again, all these people are not like the perfect pairings, but it's just who I have. But Thaddeus has an ability, the Spotter ability, which buffs all ranged attackers and then gives an additional buff to everyone with heavy weapon, which are all 3 of these snipers. So they get a buff from Thaddeus range. They get an extra buff for their heavy weapon from Thaddeus's ability. They get another 25% boost if just by heavy weapon if they stand still. And they can, they have pretty good movement except for Certus to move around and get high ground or whatever they want. So lots of strengthening of their attacks going on. They're single hits, so Thaddeus's buff applies to each hit, so they're not really taking full advantage of that. But single hit can also be useful because a lot of times you're shooting at enemies in tall grass or something like that. So yeah, I think this works pretty well. I probably want to swap Certus for someone like Mugen Ra, or actually I am bringing up Chiron and Volk, so probably next Guild War I'll have them in this combo instead of Certus, because Certus, his movement is challenging, and then he doesn't hit very hard. I mean, neither does Calendus really, but Calendus at least can she has the defense, melee hit. She's got the move and reposition ability, so she's got a lot of stuff working for her still. And then Sarquail is just amazing. He hits really hard. He's got the retaliate ability. He's pretty tanky. I mean, for like a sniper, yeah, he's pretty tanky. All right. 3 more. Sorry, guys. This is a longer video than I thought we were going to do. Here we go. And now we're getting down to the dreg. So in Guild War, you need 50 units to really use all of your tokens properly. It's a lot of people. I mean, there's only like 100 units in the game. And as a beginner, you probably only have 30 or 40. So just getting to 50 is a lot. And getting to 50 all at, as a beginner, Iron 1, or if you're in Battlefield 2 or 3, like bronze, getting 50 bronze units, I barely got that recently. It's a lot of units. So down to here, but I do like this. I was like, what can I put together with this remaining group? I mean, the Tyranids work really well together, and they work well together because of Hive Tyrant's passive. Anybody with Synapse that attacks an enemy, then if they don't kill it, they spawn a Hormigaunt that also attacks that same enemy. So that works for Hive Tyrant. That also works for Hive Tyrant's active, which spawns another unit, Tyrant Guard, Tyranid Warrior, that then attacks. And if they don't kill an enemy, they spawn another Hormigaunt, which is great. Parasite is kind of a win-win here or lose-lose depending on how you think, but I say it's win-win because you either don't kill the enemy and spawn the Hormigaunt, or with Winged Prime's passive, if you do kill the enemy and it's organic, it's a living enemy, then you spawn a Ripper Swarm. And Ripper Swarms are actually way better summons, I think, than Hormigaunts. They're just, or Barbagonts? Barbagonts. I don't know. Hormigaunts, whatever. The Gaunts. Yeah, they're so much harder to take out, and they just really distract the enemy for a while. And that's what this whole thing is about: distracting, and just outlasting them and chipping away at them. Yarick also has an ability where he spawns guardsmen for everybody that's died. So he starts with 2, but he can get it up to 5, I think, at Epic. Those are all the summoners, but what's amazing is Yarick ties this whole thing together because Yarick's passive ability buffs all the units with battle fatigue. So it's not the Tyranid Warrior, but it is the Ripper Swarms, the Guardsmen, the Hormagaunts, I'm going to keep calling them Hormagaunts, and you also get to buff the units spawned by Malleus rocket launcher, which can be incredible. And Malleus is kind of crucial to this because it brings us to the second part of this, which is not just buff, like swarm the enemy with all of these fodder units, buff the fodder units, but also suppress them too. So Malleus's active ability, if you don't use the passive, can lay down a barrage and then suppress the units that are there. The Winged Prime's ability also suppresses the units that she pushes back. And also, yeah, you can spawn 3 Ripper Swarms if you're lucky with Winged Prime's active ability just off the bat without killing anybody. That's great. But anyway, Tyrant Guard's ability also suppresses and taunts an enemy, and then Aethos's ability stuns 2 units. So it's like, so you run in there, you swarm them with tons of gaunts and low-level units that distract them, hopefully. Then you suppress all of them, then you stun them, then you taunt them, and you got Tyrant Guard, who's going to be in Synapse range to use his passive plus Aethos passive, so everyone's getting damage reduction, everyone's getting extra defense, so it can work well. It doesn't always work. It's kind of hit or miss for me, but yeah, this is a fun one to use for sure. I'm going to do Blast 'em last. So Genestealers, I think, is a pretty obvious one. So they just all work great together. It's mainly based off of Isaac's ability, who he spawns a ton of these neophytes. Zybia every time she moves, she either spawns a neophyte. Well, she spawns a neophyte and a new ambush totem, whatever. Ambush thing. Then Jude, who also spawns an ambush token every time he's shot at and then dodges it and shoots back, which he's like deadly. Holland, who can heal up Jude preemptively to strengthen Jude's attack or just keep everyone topped up, also summons a what's that thing called? The big hypermorph. And then the weak link here actually is the Patermine, I think. I always get really excited because if you summon, say, with Isaac, you get a ton of these ambush things around the battlefield. And if there's, say, 2 next to an enemy, then, or maybe 3, maybe there's one behind him too, then you can run the Patermine in and spawn 3... God, I'm forgetting the names of all these summons. This has been a long video. You can spawn 3 Genestealers. It's Pure Strain Genestealers. That's what they're called. And attack, and then they all attack the same enemy. So you can get a lot of summons out really fast. I always do the fatal flaw of putting Patermine in like a very vulnerable position and just to get the summons out, and then for some reason the enemy loves to target Patermine and kill him, and then, I still win the battle, but you lose out on some extra points by not getting a perfect score. But yeah, Genestealers are just incredible. They're the best team in Guild Wars. I'll talk more about their synergies later, but they're a no-brainer. If you have Genestealers, build them up for Guild War, even at a low level. Get them to bronze just to compete, and they're incredible. And on offense and defense. And then the last one, I really was running out of units here. I was like, I don't know what else I can really do here. Let me see. And I said, man, I keep coming up against these Genestealer lineups. Maybe I should design something that can help fight against them. So this isn't ideal, but it does sort of work. Actually, the Machine of War is one of the most important units in this. So, and back to this. The Machine of War for Genestealers, this just helps get double attacks. I usually put it on Isaac. But actually, somebody in my comments just told me a thing that I'm so excited to try now. Sorry, I'm going to go to this lineup. Just one more thing about Genestealers. If you use the Storm Speeder's ability on Isaac, Isaac's passive makes anybody that steps on the decoys, if a Genestealer steps on them, they get extra damage. But if an enemy steps on them, they work like a bomb, like a mine. They explode and then they do some damage. but that technically counts as Isaac's attack. So if anybody, you have like 12 of these decoys all over the battlefield, and then all of a sudden, like every time someone steps on them, they get hit by Storm Speeder. It's kind of awesome. I mean, my Storm Speeder's abilities are so low, but like that's pretty amazing that they all can get extra hits every time they get stepped on. All right, and then the last machine of war is Sanji, and Sanji is really good at activating Jude's passive ability. Jude basically can't be killed. You have to use 2 separate attacks to take Jude down because he's going to dodge the first attack every time. But you can hit Jude with Sanji by putting the marker light on him first. And then once he's moved, he's not going to attack anybody because he can't attack a machine of war. Then you can run in and kill him for real after that. So that helps, but a lot of times the other strategy here to kill Jude is Overwatch. And I only have one Overwatching unit here, but I basically try to just buff the heck out of Emo Spec. I put Calgar next to Emo Spec to buff every hit. I put Athana within 2 hexes of Emo Spec. I probably put Emo Spec on high ground, and that should kill a Jude if Jude runs in to attack. It usually kills 2 or 3 Genestealers, but I don't know. With the buff, sometimes I think it should kill a Genestealer, and then all of a sudden a high ground Emo Spec somehow can't take out a Zybia. Like, I've had dumb stuff like that happen where I'm like, come on, man. He should be able to kill him, especially if he's buffed by Calgar. So sometimes I'll also put in Giga Scraps next to Emo Spec to protect him, give him a little armor. And then heal him up too later if he needs. And then I have Vindicta in here too for splash damage. So the rest of these guys do splash damage. Giba can also summon a tank, which helps distract. But if you can get Emo Spec in the middle of the Genestealers and then use his active, he can go crazy and shoot like all the Genestealers. If you can get Calgar in the center of this Genestealer summoning, hopefully they don't summon at all, but if you get him in the middle and use his active, he can shoot everybody in range 2. So and eliminate all the decoys. And then if you get Vindicta in there, she can use her active and then her normal ability to shoot flame damage around and do splash damage there. So there's a lot of splash damage going on here. It doesn't really work too well, but this is like what I put together just to help with GSC lineups. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for bearing with me here. I thought I'd, since I did my defensive teams, I thought I'd share my offensive teams, and really like what I'm kind of niching the channel all about is all about synergies. So Guild War is like the ultimate use of synergies, and guild raids of course. But yeah, so these are my teams. I think they work pretty well. I'm very nervous about stepping up to Battlefield 5, but I think I got a good foundation, and I'm looking forward to it. So wish me luck. Anyway, thanks guys. Use my refer a friend code if you haven't yet. OFT87ham, and like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.